Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection of humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Guthrie.
And we have a very special guest today, Demian Borba, who's the Strategic Development Manager for Adobe Xd. Hello, Demian.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. We went out to San Francisco, and we met with Demian because we think Adobe Xd is a really interesting product, and we wanted just to say hi and see what they were up to, and we thought it was great if we could just get an update. I should just say we're not sponsored by Adobe. They gave us no money.
And I think you guys went there because I listened to your podcast and I reached out to you guys, and I noticed you were in town for a conference, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a big fan of the podcast, so yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I started that.
They did Adobe when we were there. Adobe did give us some XD socks, which were pretty awesome.
And a really neat XD notebook.
So I suppose I should to be upfront. I would they have provided me with socks.
Yeah, you gotta disclose this. This is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's back up for a second because it's possible that there are people out there listening who don't know what Adobe Xd is, especially since, I mean, it's actually in beta. I mean, so I talk about it a lot because when we were out visiting you, you gave us this wonderful demo that was really fun, and then I started talking about it everywhere. But let's back up for a second, and Demian, do you want to give the 2-minute spiel on what is Adobe Xd?
Sure. All right. So Adobe Xd is a brand new tool from Adobe. We're working on it for the last 2 years. It's still with that label beta, but in a very different way. All the features that are final, and we're labeling it a beta just because we don't think it has all the features to make it a 1.0 product. But that's very close. So we're gonna get to 1.0 very soon, and the label will change. But label is just a label, right? It's we have a very special approach with Xd. Xd was born inside Adobe. So the way I see the team is really this startup inside Adobe where we're trying to enable designers to solve the challenges of UX today, which is a lot more than just visual design. It's a lot more than just the pixels on the screen. With Xd, you can design low fidelity, you can design high fidelity designs, then you can jump to prototypes very easily, just one click, and then you can start creating interactions. Then you can share that with any stakeholder, get feedback, and then go back to your design, go back to your prototype, make all the changes, and keep that iteration. So that assumption of fail fast to succeed sooner. And it's been an amazing journey. We have when I joined, it was the alpha days. The team was very small, and now the team is big. It's huge. It's a huge deal for Adobe, and we're really excited to get it to more people and help designers succeed sooner.
So it has.
Yeah, we both have questions.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when you say prototypes, just so the audience knows, basically, you can create, and I'm using my air quotes here, right? So you can create an app on your phone, for example, and it looks like an application. It has very columns. You can scroll. It has what appears to be automatically generated content as if it was an application, but it's not actually. You didn't have to actually build an app. So if you're on a UX team and you're just trying to prototype something fast and have it work almost seamlessly, Adobe Xd is a very interesting brand new tool to help you do that, just for example.
Totally. Again, this concept of if you go ahead and you develop everything with an engineering team, and then later on you test with people, you find out things are not exactly the way they expect. It's very, very expensive, right? To learn that late in the game. And with Xd, you can create prototypes very easily, not only for mobile app design, but also for website design. Or we have some companies doing dashboard design for cars, and There's a lot of things that you can do with XD, but the main goal is to learn as fast as you can before you get to implementation.
Now, there are a lot of prototyping tools out there. I mean, I remember, boy, do I even want to admit this? I mean, I was prototyping back in the 1980s. Can you believe that? And, you know, the tools
I had
were better.
Such a good joke.
Okay, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't say it. I just wanted the audience to know there's a killer line that I followed.
There were actually a few tools. There weren't a lot, and they weren't super sophisticated. But you know, back then you didn't need you weren't going to be prototyping much visual design because the computers couldn't do it. But they were actually not bad. And since then, there's been like a lot of tools, and there are a lot of tools out there. So, you know, this is your opportunity, Demian, I mean, this is not, you know, we don't usually do podcasts in which people do sales pitches, but
yeah, I do that.
but given that, you know, this is a relatively newcomer into the field, and given that you are you've been with the team for a while, and you're a key person in what the tool is all about. Can you just highlight some of the things that you think are different about XD compared to some of the other tools that are out there?
Oh, totally. I think the main thing that we're trying to solve is this challenge of friction, right? Because today, if you're a UX designer or you're a product designer or whatever you called, you have to, when you need to develop a product, it can be a website, it can be an app, you have to test. And then to go through that process today, you have to design in one tool, then you have to export that, import into another tool to start prototyping it. Then you have to share in different ways, maybe sharing in another tool. So there's a lot of friction because you have to make your changes, and then you have to jump back to these tools and make all those changes. There's a lot of friction. So with XD, you can do all that within the same workflow, and there's a lot of like new features that are coming to XD that will make that process even faster. So I think one thing that I'm really proud to say that the team of engineers and designers, they are so good. And I'm really impressed with everything that the team is accomplishing, and everyone is so dedicated, everyone is so talented, that today XD, even in beta, is the fastest tool for design, for UX design. You can open hundreds of artboards and things just work. And other tools are kind of, they face some challenges when they try to do the same. But I mean, our biggest goal is to help the designer to succeed sooner, to move as fast as possible, and to get that feedback as fast as possible.
Yeah, because I think that, I mean, when I was first exposed, I first heard about Adobe XD actually when we were in Stockholm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was over 2 years ago.
You mean? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had a booth, and I.
They did?
Yeah, they had a booth there, and I actually, you know,
I don't remember any of this.
I don't have the user experience that you do, but I thought XD was a really, really, really. I thought it would be a very big deal for the UX stage, because I've seen this happen in other fields. So, 2 quick points, and then I'll jump out, and Susan, you can jump in. The first is the reason I think that it's becoming even more important that something like this is developed is because of the explosion of Agile and the Agile dev cycle. And so one big problem that the UX industry as a whole has been facing is that it's been basically Agile has become the dominant player. And so if you're a UX person, you're just jammed into the Agile cycle. And so what all the stuff you're trying to do as a UX person, now the time that you have and the resources that you have has probably shrunk. So to get you into the sprints. And so having something that allows you to quickly react to what the devs need and prototype very quickly to shave off valuable time and resources, I think is very important. That's one. And the second quick thing is that, you know, a lot of the layout things, and I put things in quotes, that are happening electronically have been getting a lot easier. When I first started doing web design way back in the day, you know, you just started with a blank HTML template. But now, you know, if you use like a Squarespace or a Wix, you can create a professional looking website in literally seconds. And being able to do the same thing with prototyping, I think is very powerful. Okay, that's my soapbox.
No, totally. Just one point there that I really like to make. And today, the scenario is so competitive that it's not just because Agile is cool or it's fun. It's because it's almost like survival. If you don't go that route, you're in trouble as a company.
I would like to. Can we give one example? When we were visiting you in a couple months ago, Demian, you showed us a feature that I don't know if it was, you know, in the product yet or not, but and Guthrie, you have to help me because I remember we talked about how interesting this was, and it had to do with, you know, let's say you're designing a screen, it's on a mobile application, and you're going to show, you know, a picture and a description and a picture and a description and a picture and a description, right? Mm-hmm. Like a whole panel of those. And Demian, remind me of what there was this really quick way, like you set up a picture and description, and then you just said, yeah, I want a bunch of these. Yeah,
that's called the repeat grid, the repeat grid tool. And just a little a bit of background on that functionality. We learned that designers do a lot of repetitive steps. For example, you just described, you have one element, let's say it's a set of stars for rating. You copy one, paste, move it to the right, copy and paste, move it to the right. And that takes time, right? And if you need to adjust the spacing in between each element, it's very painful, like one by one. So Adobe is really well known for creating great design tools. So we spent a lot of research, a lot of time preparing and investigating there to get to the repeat grid, doing a lot of testing, a lot of different prototypes. And the repeat grid, you just select the element you want to repeat. Then you activate the tool and it just repeat the elements like dragging, and then you can adjust the padding. The padding is reflected across the entire grid, and all the content can be unique inside the grid. So you can have text that is different. You can have imagery that's different and unique. You can even drag text files or images from your Finder or Windows Explorer to the grid, and it populates the entire grid. So that saves that time that you would have to manually create those elements. And again, going back to let's say you get feedback and you need to make the padding different or something bigger, you can really, in a very fast way, you can do that using the repeat grid.
Yeah, it's you know, there's a phrase in sometimes when I teach UX or usability, human factors. And we'll use the phrase of, you know, there isn't any one thing that I can tell you to do, that if you do that one thing, then all of a sudden you have a wonderful usable design of your product. It's this combination of little things that all together make the experience great. And I kind of had that feeling when we were visiting with you and you were showing us some of the features that were coming up. It's like, you know, there's not any one thing that makes XD special, but there's this combination effect. Mm-hmm. And after we visited with you, you know, we have the Adobe suite, right? And so if you have the Adobe suite, you have XD, right? Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
yes, that's correct.
And so it was, which I think actually a lot of people don't know. Like I teach at, I'm an adjunct instructor at University of Wisconsin, one of our campuses local to me. And when I got back from meeting with you, I said, hey guys, we need to think about using XD for our students, because a lot of different classes, we have a human technology interaction major in the department, and a lot of different courses are doing prototyping, and there's like all these different tools all the professors are using. And I said, I think we should consider XD. And they said, well, how much does it cost? And it's like, well, I think we have it. It's like everyone went, and I did the same thing. I went home and it's like, hey, Guthrie, we have this. It's like we had it and we didn't even know we had it. So I played around with it a little bit, and it was such a relief to, easily be able to just start creating screens. I know there are other prototyping tools, and I won't name them, that supposedly they're intuitive, but within like 2 minutes there's something really basic I want to do, and I can't figure out how to do it. And the tool probably does it, but I can't figure it out. And I thought that you guys had done such a this is like the shoemaker's children finally have shoes. You've done such a good job of design that it was pretty easy to, and I'm sure there were lots of features that I, maybe hadn't realized were in there. But I'm really impressed with the.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll let the team know. Like, we have one of the things that we follow very, very hard is like we defined guiding principles for XD since day one, and we follow them like really, really hard. For example, there are 3. So the first one is lightweight and approachable. So like you said, it has to be easy to learn. It has to be fast. We don't want you like to wait, as like there's a lot of apps that you open the app and then you see the splash screen, that first screen, and you go get coffee until you the app. And XD doesn't have a splash screen because it opens so fast. So it's there, it's fast, and it can handle multiple things. The render engine there is super, super powerful. Then the second principle is zero friction, the thing we were talking about, where you don't have to jump from tool to tool and everything is there. And the last one is transparent and open. So one of the things that we do for XD is everything that we do is transparent. There's this big sense of community. So we have a website where it's adobeXd.uservoice.com, where any designer, any stakeholder can go there, suggest a feature request or file a bug, and more people can go there, vote on the feature you're suggesting, or you can vote on another person's feature. We, the product team and the engineer team, we go there, we update the status, and we keep people involved since the very beginning. So as soon as there's something that's available, we let you know, and it's all there.
All right. So how long have you been with the team?
I joined Adobe in 2015 when XD was called Project Sparkler, was not even Project Comet. So since the very, very beginning, I think I joined the team when he had like 40 people. Now, if you combine everyone involved, it's close to 200 people.
And what were you doing before this?
Before that, I was working for PayPal as a developer advocate, also in San Francisco, Braintree PayPal. Before that, I did work for BlackBerry, also as a developer evangelist. And before that, I had my agency, my digital agency in San Diego. I was teaching at UCSD. I have a background in design and in development. Huge fan of design thinking. I used to teach design thinking in Brazil. I'm from Brazil originally. And yeah, like all these different things that combined can help the team to add more value. And I think it's really aligned with the way we build XD is really aligned with design thinking and iterations, prototyping, testing. We use XD to create XD. That's crazy. So sometimes
that's funny.
We build prototypes for every major feature, and we test with so many people, and that's helping us. Like Adobe used to have these long cycles for releases. Sometimes it's like 18 months, but now it's like for XD, it's every month. Every month there's a new release, a new update, and it's super fast. We also have a pre-release program where we test features that are still in development. A lot bigger features that are taking longer. One of them is called developer handoff. So we looked at the whole UX challenge, from wireframing to high fidelity design to prototyping and like sharing, getting feedback, working with developers. One of the problems we're trying to solve is versioning. You know, like a lot of designers have this Photoshop file that's named final v1 final really final.psd, and we're trying to solve that visually, so that's also in the works. There's one thing that's very close to being released, which is an asset panel. For example, you don't have to worry about creating sets of colors or sets of fonts that you need to reuse. Let's say you're a company that has a very specific font in like a very specific set of colors. You can just design something on an artboard, then you hit plus, and it creates this gallery of this panel of fonts and colors that you can reuse, and then you just select the font you want to change. You click on this panel, it changes the font. And later on, let's say you have 200 artboards with the same font across these artboards. You go to this panel and you right-click and you can add it, and it's reflected throughout the whole project. So that saves a lot of time, and you don't have to worry about managing that because XD is there. They're creating these things for you. So that's another example. Also, the fact that maybe use Photoshop or Illustrator to create those things for colors and character styles, you can then bring them to XD, and in the future be able to bring images, vectors, and then if you change those images and vectors in Photoshop or Illustrator, that will update in XD as well. So there's a lot of progress in those areas, and we still have a lot in terms of prototyping. It's crazy. Yeah,
I have another question for you. So what's been frustrating and challenging for you in working on this? What's been
frustrating and challenging? I think we move super fast. Like we release every month, but I wish we could move faster in terms of like getting all the features that people want. But sometimes it just takes time, and we need to make it right. When we were developing like XD in the beginning, we thought people didn't need layers. That was our hypothesis. And after like almost 8 months of iterations, we need to have layers in XD, but we did it in a very special way. So we did a lot of iterations, a lot of user testing, and now layers are special. So I think my biggest frustration is that we wish we could get more features in faster, but it's just building a tool that's fast and lean like XD is so hard. And getting more people doesn't mean it's gonna get more features, especially if you wanna respect the principles that we have. That's my biggest frustration.
So how are you planning on getting the word out? And that I know that's probably not necessarily your job.
Mm-hmm. Part of my job really involves evangelism as well. So I think the biggest challenge that we have as any other new product or service or tool is perception. A lot of people need to see it in action, and it can be like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, like you mentioned when you start the repeat grade tool, but we need to get that opportunity, and that's our biggest challenge. But I think over time, just like other tools got super popular and now are very popular, I think we'll get there. We'll keep fighting, and we'll keep trying to deliver value every month. And hopefully, Adobe's a 35-year-old company, right? And it's still relevant, it's still innovating. So I think we'll get there. It's just a matter of time.
What about if someone is working on I'm thinking about, besides websites and software and mobile apps, what if you're working on like augmented reality or virtual reality?
Thing. I think globally, but here in the Valley, like there's a lot of things happening all the time. You see meetups of augmented reality and VR. That's the future. There's a lot to be discovered there, right? Like, for example, I heard that they were working on a game like a first person shooting game, and it was so real that people got sick, like seeing blood and seeing all those things. So they also have these challenges, which is interesting. So I think there's a lot to evolve there. For now, XD is really focused on UI design and how you can learn fast. You can create anything you want. Like I use XD for presentations, and it's also changing the way I deliver presentations because I can share a link with my audience, and they can go through the slides.
No, wait a minute. You use XD for presentations?
Yeah, you can the same way XD is a communication tool, right? So you can have your artboards as slides, and then you share that as a link. And just like you share a prototype, you can share your presentation, and then people can see the slides and they can comment on things. So you can get feedback as a speaker. That's great because you can get feedback as you present. Oh, this is not clear enough for me, and you can go back and you can reply. You can have a thread on that comment, and I can go back to my design, my prototype, change the thing that was not clear to people, and then resolve that comment, and the person that gave me the comment will be notified too. So it's the whole cycle of iterations and improving what you're trying to communicate.
That's a crazy idea. Guthrie, you want to redo all our presentations?
Yeah, no, obviously that's definitely what we need to do.
He hates I'm always changing things.
I mean, it does make a lot of it makes actually there is some sense to being able to have a piece of software where multiple people can collaborate on a single project to put something on a screen.
Yeah, I think collaboration is just another thing that makes this new scenario of creating products so important, right? Like prototyping is extremely important to take an idea and make it tangible, but part of the design thinking there is like extreme collaboration. So the more people you can have working on the same project, and that can be designers, working with developers, that can be designers working with developers and working with stakeholders for feedback. You can bring different perspectives. You can learn faster, and you can in the end have a better experience, a better product. So collaboration is something we're really looking at, and one of the things that we're working on is co-editing. So the beginning would be multiple designers working on the same file, but that will come later. But we're working on it.
What has been one of the hardest things to implement in terms of features that maybe you didn't think was going to be so hard, and then it turned out to be very challenging?
One of the things that's hard, for example, one thing that comes to mind is having XD in the cloud was extremely challenging for this scenario where you can have your files in the cloud, in our Creative Cloud, and then you can have more people working on it. Mainly because, let's say you are in a lab in a school, and you have multiple classes using this. So let's say you have your Creative Cloud files folder. That's very similar to Dropbox. You can store your files there. But then another student comes in and logs in with a separate account. Somehow you need to very fast. You have to download those files, and you have to reset that machine. And that's extremely challenging. And that's another thing we're working super hard to get better at. I think the cloud was very, very hard. And that's one thing that we learned the hard way, but we're working super well on that.
All right, and then what about a feature that you thought was going to be a great idea, and then it turned out like not to be such a great idea, or nobody wanted it, or?
I think we're still learning, and there's a lot of things that, again, back to the design thinking, like when we were doing the empathy phase, where one of the things that we really like to do is watch people. So sometimes we ask questions and they say something they do, but then when you watch them, they do something totally different. For example, if you ask people if they have problems buying something on Amazon, they would say, no, it's super easy. But then if you watch them, I'm sure you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to see a lot of like problems along the way. So one of the things that we try to do is really watch people. And layers, I think, is a great example. Like I was mentioning before, we assumed people didn't need that, but when we watched them, like trying to get to a specific pieces of the UI, it was super hard. But then we innovated on top of that. Same for the repeat grid. There's tools that do like you can programmatically you can go to this text field and you can say I want 2 columns, I want 3 lines, and all that. But repeat grid is a design tool, right? It's a freeform tool. You can do that as you design. So those things help us give that power to the user. And we're doing so many things like that will bring that kind of thing. And I'm sure I'll be super happy to show you more as we move forward. But yeah, there's a lot to do.
Is there so when I'm thinking about Adobe, do you think XD is eventually going to maybe eat some of the other? That's a
great question.
Yeah, so like Adobe Flash, like rest in peace.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Flash has slowly been being phased out by basically just standard HTML, and I think it was last month that Flash will officially be retired. The jersey put up in the rafters. But so I remember when I was in high school learning Adobe Flash. It was one of the big Adobe programs. And of course it's been basically taken over by a couple other programs. Same with with Fireworks? That was one, right?
Fireworks.
Yeah.
Before, it came from Macromedia, and it was a great tool for designers.
Yeah.
And
but essentially, there was nothing you couldn't do in Illustrator or InDesign in it. So do you think that XD will basically take kind of the mantle and maybe carve out a spot from a couple other Adobe programs?
And is he willing to say this on air?
No, that's a great question, and I think it helps me to tell the story of XD. We see XD as this hub for UX design, and we one of the reasons, like as part of the design thinking process that we followed back then, the design challenge was that Photoshop and Illustrator were not initially designed for UX design. All this challenge of like they can become this bloated tool that can be slow for that kind of scenario. So XD, the way we see XD is the hub for UX design, and it will never be as powerful as Photoshop for bitmap editing. It will never be as powerful as Illustrator for vector editing. If you need those complexity and the complex operation, you need to go to Photoshop. You need to go to Illustrator. Then you can bring those assets back to XD, but XD will not be that part of it. So I think they complement each other, and that's the plan. We're gonna bring more things, and I don't know, maybe in the future when you support video, the video tools will also help that part of the scenario. And because Adobe has all these different tools for the very complex scenarios, I think it's just good for everything. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's interesting. It's just fascinating, all the different use cases. Is there a long-term goal? Out in the future, and maybe you've already covered it, I'm not sure. But we're basically, so you have the prototype of the app. Surely there's a so Dreamweaver, okay?
Okay.
I remember Dreamweaver.
Yeah. This is the Adobe fanboy podcast, by the way.
We have people on the team that they were working on Dreamweaver 1.
Oh my god. That's pretty crazy. Did I ever use Dreamweaver 1? Almost certainly not. But
I started Dreamweaver 4 when I was a student. It was Dreamweaver Ultra Dev, I think that was.
All right, I used Dreamweaver 1.
So
I'm willing to say that.
So the vision of Dreamweaver was very ahead of its time. For those of you who don't know, Dreamweaver was Squarespace essentially. It was a drag and drop. What you see is what you get in its vision, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Was a what you see is what you get kind of drag and move website creator. And it would, you would also, so you'd have your server and you connect it to your server and you could move a picture without writing a whole lot of code that you could write the code to. And then it would
so the person that
server.
At that time, the person that we had contracted with to work on our website hated the idea that now I was going to get on Dreamweaver and do things. And it really wasn't because she was afraid she was going to lose her contract with us. It's just that she was afraid she was going to have to clean up everything I did.
That was certainly was the case because it was just ahead of its time. HTML standards were not nearly as sophisticated as they were today. Browsers were not nearly as sophisticated. There wasn't a bootstrap to do easy template. It was much harder to do HTML program. And so eventually it just kind of lost steam, and now we have the Squarespaces and the Wixes of the world. But I'm curious then if actually Adobe XD is simply picking up where Dreamweaver left off, and with the eventual goal being, look, I've created this mobile application prototype. Now I want to press the button and turn it into a real app that works on Android and iOS. I'm sure that has to be a thought somewhere.
No, that's a great point, and I think if you go back to the end goal of what the team is trying to accomplish, as let's say your end goal is to develop an app or an app site. That's the end goal, right? So how can you go back to solve that problem? And generating code is part of it. But as Adobe, we learned a long time ago that professional developers they hate pre-generated code, like code that's generated by a machine. They want to pick their own frameworks. They want to make their choices there. And XD for now really gives the developer all the assets that they want. That's exactly what they need. Very soon we're gonna have this developer handoff feature where you can give a link to a developer. Developer will be able to see measurements, colors, text, and eventually extract assets. So that will be there later as well. But I'm pretty sure because the end goal is to have an app, one of the things that we're planning to do is open up XD for extensibility. So other developers will be able to develop plugins for XD. The file format is very, very easy for that. Like internally, we use a lot of extensibility layers to create XD. So it'll be very easy for us to open that up for developers. And someone, I'm positive, will make one plugin for Angular, one for React, one for all these different technologies that can, in the end, create that final product. That's the initial challenge.
Yeah, I mean, and in a lot of ways, it's so funny because if you look back at HTML, it was so complicated. But then if you an app, like an Android app, is so much more complicated than an HTML website ever was. And so it's kind of like it's moving in parallel where the technology is getting more sophisticated, and at the same time the applications and portals that people are trying to develop are also getting more sophisticated simultaneously, so they're kind of moving together.
And I think one big part of the long term is that I mentioned that to you guys when you were there visiting Adobe, but Adobe has two main divisions. One is the digital media, which is all the apps, and XD is there. And the other side is the marketing cloud, the Creative Cloud, the apps, marketing cloud, all the analytics and instrumentation. So long term, I think we'll be able to connect all the prototypes and everything with instrumentation, and that will give companies and designers a lot more information about what is working, what is not working, and and not only help you build something, but learn if it's performing well.
Yeah.
Okay, but all right. Now, Guthrie, you know that I like to think about these things, and I'm probably not very practical or realistic when I do, but I mean, I'm wondering about when we get to the point where humans are not programming any of this stuff, and humans maybe aren't even designing any of this stuff. Damian, do you ever think about that when, it's going to be AI and robots, and so we'll still I guess we may have to feed some information in, but humans won't actually be doing the design, and humans won't actually be doing the programming. Do you think that's ever going to come to pass, or is that something that, you don't even think about that?
I think about that a lot. Like I really like all the brain stuff you guys talk about here, and like how how humanity can evolve and stuff. So I think the way I see it, I'm positive about this, right? I think the same way that my grandfather today has problems using technology or has some challenges there, because he was super good at one thing when he was young and he was growing, and I'm sure I will have challenges as I get older, and all my knowledge can get to a certain point. My daughter, for example, she's 2 years old now, and the way she plays with my iPhone, that's insane. So I think she'll be able to get a lot more distant further than I can, and I think her brain is being kind of developed in a very special and different way. So the more we can give designers things to be automated, and like you said, removing this friction, removing this repetitive things, I think their brains can build in a more, I don't know, like in a better way, and I think humans can become better. I think the way all this brain power will evolve will be different. I think will get a lot stronger than I or you guys could.
So you're positive about these changes. You're not seeing doomsday scenarios.
There's good and bad, right? I really like to see the good. I think the good is always more than the bad. So I think it can be, it can take humanity to a different level, and I don't think it's a bad thing.
All right. So now, now going back, having gone out that direction, now I'll go back to a different direction. So if I'm a UX person, right, and I've never tried XD,
mm-hmm.
What do you think would be a good way to check it out, to try it out? Do you guys have, videos yet? Do you have tutorials yet?
Oh yeah, you can get XD at xd.adobe.com, and there you have a way to download it for Mac and Windows. We also have mobile apps for real-time preview and for user testing. The thing you test on the phone or tablet gets cached, and you can do some user testing there. It's all free for now. When you get to 1.0, that might change. But it's there in Creative Cloud. So if you have Creative Cloud, XD is there for you. And again, it works on Mac and Windows. And if you have feedback, you can use adobexd.uservoice.com to send us feedback. The whole team is on Twitter, so you can tweet anything with hashtag Adobe Xd, ask questions, and everyone tries to reply, and everyone gets involved. It's a very lean process, and yeah, you can reach out to us on Twitter, on User Voice, and hopefully every month there's more value being delivered.
Cool.
So if someone doesn't have the Adobe suite right now, they can still go and download XD for free at the moment to try it out. Is that what you're saying?
You just need an Adobe ID, and you can create a free one, so it doesn't have to be a paid one for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about or plug or Anything
this
else
is your
fun?
chance,
This
Damian.
is your chance. You have the world is your oyster.
Are you looking? Hey, wait a minute. I have a question. Are you hiring? If someone's interested in a job?
Adobe is always hiring, and there's there's a plan of we're building more buildings, and it's
you guys are building more buildings.
Yeah, so the Adobe plans to grow more, and there's always we're looking for designers, developers, product managers, and Adobe is a great company to work for.
Are you guys hiring in the XD team?
Yes. You can go to Adobe Careers, and there you can see all the openings. You can look for Adobe Experience Design there, and there's a lot of things there. I'm sure. I'm very positive.
Does everybody need to live in the Bay Area? Are you working with any remote teams?
Yeah, we have people remotely. We have people in Romania, in India, and different parts of the U.S. But I think for now we're really looking for people on site, mainly because of that extreme collaboration that I was talking about in the beginning. I think the short-term plan is to have more people together, working together.
And why don't you talk for just a minute about the wonderful building we met you in?
The building you guys went to was the Macromedia building in San Francisco, and before being the building for Macromedia, it was part of the gold rush and was one of the only buildings that stood still during the big earthquake in 1906, I think, and everything got destroyed, and there's a lot of history there. So if you're listening to this and if you're ever there, ping me on Twitter. Maybe we can show you around.
Oh, what was your Twitter handle? Did you say that already?
Demian Borba.
Oh, very straightforward.
Yeah. And I'm one of the things I really look for is to get more feedback. So if you have any feedback on XD, please send it our way. We want to make sure we are validating our hypotheses all the time, and that's the only way we can succeed and help you guys succeed.
Very cool. Oh, any other questions, Susan?
No, it just makes me want to, honestly, and I don't say this about, Guthrie, you know about me and products, right? I mean, there are so many products that we use in our day-to-day work, just to run our business and so on. And what do I always do about all the products?
I don't know. What do you do?
I complain about everything. I'm like, this isn't easy to use. Why did they do it this way? So there's all these products we use that, Guthrie thinks are just fine. And I'm like, from a UX point of view, this is terrible. And honestly, XD is one of the few products where it's like, can I just play? I just want to play with it. So I really do encourage people to check it out. And I'm sure for those of you who are doing UX design stuff day in and day out, which is not what I'm doing right now in my work. I used to do that in terms of, just actually having to create lots and lots of screens and pages. I do that some these days, not as much as I used to. So I'm sure for those of you who do that, maybe it's not going to be as much fun. But I really encourage everyone listening to at least try it out. I think that it's a really interesting product. And I'm going to keep trying to get over the inertia at the university and see if we can get. I know in the classes I teach, I'm going to have people start using XD because it's on the computer. So
yeah, awesome.
Let's do it.
And if you have feedback, please send us as soon as possible.
Damian wants feedback.
Yes.
So try something out and send him a message. Thanks so much for coming on to our podcast, and maybe we'll have you on again when you've got things launched and new features coming out, and you can tell us what's coming down the pike.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Damian.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.